Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the L.A.M.E Book Club podcast. My name is Melissa.
I'm Ellie.
And we are starting our very first episode of our Kingdom of Ash book. Telling?
Yes.
Retelling? Whatever.
Book telling.
We're in the Throne of Glass series, starting episode week 1 of Kingdom of Ash. It's going to be the first 2 prologues and then chapters 1 through 20. And
it's
so bittersweet.
Bittersweet.
Yep.
Jinx.
Well, except I said it first, but that's okay.
Not in my ears. My headphones picked up the same time. Guys, welcome. We just did a hot goss episode where we revisited the Black Jewels versus ACOTAR controversy that has been top of mind lately. So I read the first Black Jewels book, The Daughter of the Blood, and compared it to ACOTAR. And if you want to hear how that went, go check out our Monday episode.
Yeah. There's really no spoilers for ACOTAR and like very, very light spoilers for Daughter of the Blood, but really it's more like summary of the book. So honestly, like in my humble opinion, you can listen to the episode even if you want to read the series and it's not going to really ruin much for you. But if you want to know like literally nothing about it, truthfully, wouldn't recommend that. I feel like there should be some trigger warnings before you get into the series. But if you want to know nothing about it, come back after you've read the book and listen to the episode.
Yeah, for sure. Review of the week.
Yes.
Okay.
Are you ready for that? You have it?
No. Yes, I do. I do now.
Okay.
Stall. You know I'm not above stalling on the podcast. Okay. This one is from, my eyes deceive me, Kitty B 1027. And it says, just a couple of chumps, 5 stars. This podcast has been surprisingly delightful as a cure to my book hangovers. The banter and humor between M and E. We've never been called M and E.
We have now by Kitty B 107, and I love it.
1027. Please be respectful.
So sorry.
The banter between M and E is very enjoyable. Parentheses, smelly, shrimp fettuccine betrayal story, etc. Both at my cost, I remind you. And their personalities balance one another out well. I just started listening and already been through many of their episodes. This chump gives 5 stars to the podcast.
Yes.
Thanks, Kitty B.
Chumps unite.
Yeah.
Also, I totally forgot about the fettuccine story until this review, and I am laughing at it all over again.
Crime.
I wish
Criminal.
I remember what episode we talked about that. It was definitely one of our like first episodes, but I can't remember which one exactly to point back to for people to like listen to in case they haven't.
Guys, don't tempt me with a good time. If you want just an episode on all of the terrible things that have ever happened in my life, I will sit on my soapbox. I will give the people what they want. 4 hours of just me telling you about terrible things that have happened.
The best part is the word terrible in this context is used very loosely. It's all minor inconveniences for Ellie.
The other day had cramps and then someone sent me an email that I read slightly wrong and I text my friend, I am ready to end it all.
This is my 13th reason. Like,
She's dramatic, but she does it in a cute way, I'd like to think.
Oh man, this is starting off well. This is fun.
I know.
So thank you for that review, Kitty B 1027 or 1207. Okay, thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, relax. I'm not looking at it.
Everyone, like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. We will read it on the podcast as long as it is a 5-star. That's the prereq.
That's the requirement.
And, yeah. Oh, follow us on Instagram.
Yes.
We're the L.A.M.E Book Club Pod, at L.A.M.E Book Club Pod. And also, Melissa, that is the cutest sweater I think I've ever seen in my entire life. What does it say?
Thank you. Actually, it says, I can't remember. Hold on, I have to read upside down. I only accept treats in the form of books. And it has a cute little ghosty on it, little retro ghost.
Love it.
With
little flowers on that little ghost sheet. So cute.
Well, and in the pumpkin, it has books.
Oh, no kidding. That's so cute.
This was very cute. I also am going back to order. They have another spooky, quote unquote spooky, one, and it says haunted by my TBR, and it has another cute little ghost on it. And that is just too real for us to not have on every single person who reads books, needs this book.
Yeah.
Needs that sweatshirt, honestly.
Gosh. Small tangent. Yesterday I was texting Melissa and she said that she's doing the Lightlark series right now. Shout out Alex Astor. But I was like, man, that book, I need to read it. I've been told it's so good. I want to read it. I bought it like 8 months ago. It is sitting on my shelf, on my TBR, haunting me. It's waiting for me. One of the best stories, so I've been told, and it's just sitting there unopened. My TBR, I have to get to it. There's just so much going on.
I need to clarify. I'm not going to say it's one of the best stories. It's very good. I'm currently I just finished it like not that long ago, and so I just picked up Nightbane, and I'm like 10% of the way through Nightbane. But it's I don't want to get too into it because that's not what we're talking about today. But I really enjoyed it because for me, granted, I'm just a girl who has not read tons and tons of I've read quite a few books, but not every book that's ever existed. And so for me, the story was very original because it is clearly fantasy, but it felt so different than most other books that I've read.
Good.
There is literally zero references to Greek mythology, but for whatever reason, I got a Greek mythology vibe. And so it felt like kind of like not a retelling of a Greek mythology story in a fantasy world. It just felt like elements of kind of different mythologies are pulled into a completely fantasy driven plot and storyline. So it just was different and I liked it. It's certainly not like, oh my gosh, this is the most original thing I've ever read, but it's just very different than what I've been reading. And so it was fresh and I think that's what really sucked me into it.
For sure.
But and it is young adult, but I didn't get any, like, it didn't feel young adult in the writing. And I think that's where a lot of people are like, ugh, it's YA. But, like, the writing felt very good. And so it didn't feel young adult to me at all.
Yeah. You know, we are super well-rounded here at the L.A.M.E Book Club pod. One of my friends, Caitlin, she reached out to me the other day with a question that it's ingrained in my soul now, and I'd love to ask you. Okay. Would you rather never read a plot twist again or never read a romance again?
Oh my gosh. I think this is my 13th reason. I don't think I can answer it.
You have to answer it. Gun to your head. You have to answer it.
That's what I'm saying. Kill me. I don't think I'm going to answer.
No, you can't die. You have to answer it.
No. The third option is death, and that's what I choose. I can't pick between the two.
Okay, but like if you had to, just rapid fire, just gut feeling. What is your heart telling you?
I pick plot twist.
No kidding.
Yeah, because
I like you.
Thanks. Well, you know, it's been said I read for the romance. Like that is
that's why I thought. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I also can read other books. It's not like if there's no romance, I can't read it. I have enjoyed other books, and the common theme between every book I read is plot twists and so would I be devastated to never read a romance again? Yeah, absolutely. But my track record shows I can enjoy books without romance, but I cannot enjoy a boring book. So
yeah, so good. Well, I was gonna say we're well rounded because you were going to pick the romance side, and I obviously, if you've ever listened for any time, would pick the plot twist side. I'm a plot girl, so I was like, we really just have got it going on with both appreciations. But turns out Melissa's more like me than any of us ever thought. So
no,
unfortunately, here you'll never find romance.
Ellie, ask me the
just
question
kidding.
again.
No, it's too late. Let's start the.
I pick romance. Ellie, we are so well-rounded.
So well-rounded.
Two peas of different pods.
I think that's it for housekeeping and all the tangents we can roll off with for the first 10 minutes. I could have so many
more tangents, but I say nary, and let's move forward.
Let's move on.
All right, Ellie, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, Prologue 1, The Prince. Months after Aelin is taken captive by Maeve, Rowan and the cadre are searching for her in vain. That's it. Prologue 2, The Princess. Aelin is suffering inside a coffin that stifles her magic, spending days either tortured or in isolation in a secluded island prison where she, quote, would likely be forgotten. Fenris is imprisoned in his white wolf form and is forced to witness her punishment. Aelin has lost faith that the gods care about her fate. The only thing she holds on to is a childhood story of a young princess who loves her kingdom. Oh, man, these were really depressing intros into the book. And it doesn't get much better. Chapter 1. In the 2 weeks since reuniting with his Bane soldiers, Aedion has seen no evidence of Erewhon's forces from Morath. Many allies of Terrasen have arrived, including Rowan's extensive White Thorn family, Ansel of Briarcliff from the Western Wastes, the League of Silent Assassins, and forces of the Crown Prince Galen Ashriver of Wendlin, which I learned, I want to say last episode, that you say, oh no, I learned not too long ago that our friend Taylor says Ashriver instead of Ashriver. And
I said Ashriver as well when I started, but I also say Galen.
Anyways,
Everyone's
let us know
different.
what you guys. I know
We're
let us
all
know what you
made
think.
beautiful.
I've always said Ash River, and I don't really know why. And so, if you say Ashriver, let me know. But I wouldn't be surprised if I'm saying it wrong. And after I just verbally accosted Taylor for saying it wrong. Oh man. All right. The snow has recently begun to fall, and Aedion believes Erewhon will attack in the quote dead of winter, when Terrasen's armies will be at its weakest. The lords of Terrasen disagree, however, believing Erewhon will wait until spring. For the past 2 months, Lysandra has been impersonating Aelin to prevent panic amongst their allies. Though
Okay,
Aedion
wait,
is
we got to talk about that. I didn't actually think, I don't know why, but in my head I was like, so they're like not actually going to do that, right? And so coming into this book, and I'm like, for 2 months, she's been Aelin for 2 months. Also the pressure, because Lysandra cannot just conjure fire. So the pressure of like, hey, why isn't your power working? And she's just got to be like, go team. I'm chalking it up to teamwork. That's crazy.
And we are certainly going to get into that more into the story. I didn't think, and I can't remember now when I thought this. I wish I knew that we were going to be starting a podcast, and I would have written all this stuff down my first time reading it. But I did not once consider the fact that when Lysandra took Aelin's form, that means she wouldn't be able to have her power. Like, she just would physically look like her. She wouldn't be able to. In my mind, I'm like, okay, she's Aelin. And I didn't even think about the power aspect of it. So, and it, like I said, we literally are about to get into that in maybe a chapter or two.
Yeah.
When that was initially brought up, I was like, oh my gosh, that makes sense. But then I immediately was like, why did they ever think this was a good idea? Like, I understand it's more just for keep up appearances, but they didn't know how long Aelin was going to be gone. Granted, none of them really thought it was going to be crazy long. But even if she's only gone a week, you don't know what's going to happen and what is going to be at that point expected of Aelin, quote unquote Aelin. And
wait, what do you mean none of them thought she would be gone crazy long? They planned on Lysandra literally having
returning.
kids with.
That's true. You're right.
Aedion, yeah,
that's so true.
That's forever. So that's I did think about the power aspect.
But what do they think? She just was gonna never use power again.
I know. Something that I don't think it gets addressed in the book, but it is something that I think we need to think about. I know that when Aelin obviously uses her power, she drains out. They get tired. Rowan, everyone gets tired. Lysandra, as the sea monster, gets tired. I don't know if that's so much because she's swimming and obviously that's tiresome, or if it's because she's expending so much power. But if you are 24/7 using your power to look like somebody else, well, actually maybe not, because she said she couldn't even remember her true form. So she has been, I guess just shifted into something else.
She shifted into something when the magic was someone who of an appearance that wasn't her original form, when magic was taken away. So at that point,
so she was stuck there.
Her. Yeah, but that wasn't her using magic because magic was gone.
No, I know.
So it's not
afterwards, it's not like she took melted away her magic and said, I'm going to stop using it and turn back into her original self, because she said she couldn't remember what she looked like, so she couldn't go back to that. Well, that's what I'm saying. She always stayed that girl. So I guess it doesn't expend your power to stay shifted.
Well, but what I'm saying is that wasn't her shifting anymore. That just became who she was, and like her.
Oh, like
because she couldn't
she
remember.
locked in there.
Yes, she locked in. Like that became her home base, for lack of a better example.
Like it just resets since the power goes away. That's like reset your human form is now
that's
this.
That's what she looked like when she had no power. So then when power came
which
back,
brings
it's
a
not
different
like,
conversation. I know that we addressed this in a previous book, but had she locked in as like a jaguar and the power went away then, or like magic went away, she would be reset as a permanent jaguar.
I guess what I was actually going to bring up, and now that we're getting like super granular about this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were right. I completely forgot about the conversation of like her having kids with Aelin, but pretending it was Rowan, so that if they had kids in the future, they'd still physically look like the Ash River, Galathinius line. Yeah. But if that is the case, so like she has shifted enough to the point where her literally down to a molecular level resembles Aelin, how does she then not also have her power? If she is so much like her to the point where her offspring would resemble her instead of Lysandra, how does that make any sense?
No. They would only resemble her because of Aedian's side.
Oh, you're so right. Okay. Yeah. There we go. This is how my brain works.
No, I got you. I had to think about it too, because I was like, would she really not have her power if like she could transform into a sea monster and get gills? So like obviously now she can breathe underwater. That's a complete different restructure. But I think that really just does have to do with the way your body is shaped rather than having external powers. So
no, for sure. You're right.
Thank you. We can move on now.
All right. Though Aelin is still angry with Lysandra for agreeing to do so in Aelin's absence, he brings her along on a scouting mission to kill Volg. They take one hostage for interrogation, but the Volg only laughs when probed for information. They make haste towards Allsbrook Castle, where Lysandra reunites with Evangeline, who's been staying with Lord Wren Allsbrook. The following day, Aelin receives word that Morath's troops have attacked Eldris, a city on Terrasen's southeastern coast. Alid accompanies Rowan, Gavriel, and Lorgan on their search for Aelin. They are a few weeks south of Dornell, where Rowan has captured one of Maeve's commanders and tortures him for information on Maeve's whereabouts. Aelin dreams that the Lord of the North, an immortal dryad from Oakwald Forest, burns to death. She wakes chained to a stone altar, Fenris being forced to remain in his wolf form, and watch her be repeatedly tortured and healed by Cairn. Aelin is covered in nearly head to toe in iron, and her food and water are also laced with iron as well to sever her access to her fire powers. That got me, because I'm like, what? And I mean, I understand there is no point. Maeve is just sadistic. But, like, truly, what is the point of doing that other than just going the extra mile to be a POS? Because she's already covered head to toe in iron. Even if she could access her powers, there's no shot that she's getting all of that off. So she still can't use her powers. So, like,
I know.
To me, that's just a reflection of how crappy Maeve actually is.
Yeah, and also, Fenris being forced to watch her get tortured. I remember when I was reading this for the first time, because we're only in chapter 3. Yeah. By chapter 3, I think I looked at my husband and I was like, I'm crying every single day because I just can't get over that she's not saved yet. But like, I mean, hopefully you've read at least to this point of the episode. I think we're going through chapter 20 today. She's not saved. She's tortured for so long.
Yes.
She is tortured for so long. And so it wasn't just like a couple chapters. Like I think Fourth Wing, you know, you get a few chapters. This was chapters on chapters on chapters. Yeah. And I was feeling so hopeless and heavy, which props to Sarah, because I'm sure that's how she wanted us to feel. But yikes.
I remember too reading it and being like, my goodness, this is a long book, but she is still not rescued. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, so if Aelin swears a blood oath to Maeve, all her torture will end, but she'll never submit to it, because swearing it will, quote, hand over everything she knew and everything she was, she will become slave eternal and usher in the doom of the world, end quote. Manon monitors the border of the Western Wastes with Dorian and the 13, searching for the elusive Kraken witches whom she plans to convince to fly into battle at the 13 side. They also search for the third word key, which was last known to be in Erewhon's possession. In Aelin's continued absence, Dorian plans to sacrifice his life to forge the lock needed to bind the word keys and seal the word gate. Dorian uses word marks to summon the spirit of Gavin, the first king of Aelin, and ask him about the location of the last word key. Gavin claims he cannot reveal that information, however, or his mate Elena's spirit will vanish forever. When Dorian criticizes Gavin for being selfish, Gavin reveals the key is in Morath. Which I just think we need to take a second here and acknowledge the fact that Homeboy just got over saying, he's like, I can't do this, otherwise my mate's spirit will vanish forever. And Dorian's like, what a jerk. And then he tells him anyways. Like, we know what that cost him to say that. That was sad. But also sad. We know the other side and we know that Elena hasn't told him that she's not going to be with him for eternity anyways. So as a reader, it made it a little less sad
all
knowing
around,
that it didn't matter.
All around.
It's just sad. Lorcan mulls over the conflicting information they've gotten from Maeve's commanders concerning Maeve's whereabouts. He continues to struggle with Elid's hatred. She blames him for Aelin's capture, which he never intended, but nevertheless is his fault. He hopes to save Aelin, but doesn't know if he'll ever even forgive himself. Rowan dreams of a future with Aelin, a few years older and pregnant, with their 4 children surrounding her.
Oh,
and
you want to kill me? You want to kill me?
I think so.
Because you did it.
This was the start of it. My goodness. I remember, though, reading this, I thought somehow, like, he had woken up and all of her being tortured was a dream, and this was the reality. And I was like, what? And then I realized, I was like, wait, no, pause. That cannot be the case. And then I was very quickly brought to reality of it. That was, in fact, the dream. And it was, everything I didn't want to be true was still true.
It's so I think like Sarah really like went for the gut punch mentioning children. Like,
I think she hates us.
Seeing Aelin in the future, like turning around, her golden hair wisping in the wind, that's enough for me to be like, wow, I'm gonna cry. But then like pregnant with your kids I actually cried so much reading these. I cried so much.
The exact verbiage was like, with her swollen belly and children. I was like, oh, not the swollen belly. Like,
I know. Kills me. It's so good. I mean, the writing is so, she knows how to pull your emotions.
She does.
And she does it.
A violent wind sweeps them away. Rowan refuses to let Aelin sacrifice her life to end the war and save the world. Chaol is unaware that Aelin has been taken captive by Maeve. Shocking. Chaol doesn't know what's going on.
One of our followers reached out to us and was like, hey, like respectfully, it actually hurts my feelings when you talk so poorly about Chaol. And I was like, you know what? And she gave like a long reasoning of why like Chaol isn't bad. And while I don't know if I agree fully, because everyone just has their own opinions on different characters based on their own experiences in life. And Chaol, obviously, you know how I feel. But I will try to be nicer.
Agreed.
So this is me trying to be nicer. We will skip the commentary for this.
Thank you. Good. Thank you, Ellie. Way to.
I am growing.
Yes, ground me as well. He sails for Aurelia with his wife Irene, the magical healers of the Torre Chesme, and half of the Coggins fleet from the southern continent.
Chesme? Did you just say Chesme?
I did, but then I realized I corrected myself. It was, and then I was just going to keep moving on. So
no, that's fine. I'm sorry.
So sorry. No, I'm glad you brought that up because I did want to clarify to people that I didn't think it actually is Chesme, but I didn't want to keep talking about the pronunciation.
You can pull a lot over on me on this podcast. I have given you a lot. But Chesme is where we draw the line.
To be fair, Chesme is also where I draw the line, so we are simpatico on that. The remaining half will follow a few weeks behind. Chaol fears the coming war because of his life bond with Irene, which allows her to, quote, funnel her powers into him so he might walk when her magic was not too drained. If he dies, she dies. And also we learned that he is unaware that Irene is preggers.
Ooh.
Which I saw that coming
Irene
from a mile away.
Did you?
Yeah, it was something that was said earlier. I mean, by a mile away, I mean the end of Tower of Dawn. So miles. But it was something, I can't remember what it was now, but it was the way that she wrote something. I was like, oof, this feels like a perfect opportunity to potentially introduce a pregnancy based on being like, and she happened to not remember when her last cycle was. Like something as like innocent as that. And I was like, nope, there's no reason to add that in unless we're going to reference it again later. And there's only one reason we'd be referencing that. But yeah, so I was not surprised. Nezrin joins Sartak and Falcon on a scouting mission to determine where the fleets should sail. The Stygian spider Manon visited several months ago to steal spider silk from to reinforce Abraxos' wings, finds Manon's camp, and attacks her. It is actually also the same spider who took 20 years off Falcon's life in a spider silk exchange and inherited some of his ability to shapeshift. Once again, tying us back into Assassin's Blade. The 13 and Dorian manage to restrain the spider in exchange for her life, she leads them to where the Kraken witches are. Dorian wonders if he can use his magic to shapeshift to find an entry to Morath.
This was interesting because I never thought.
Continue.
I think it was just an element that I was like, what an last book. Okay, Hail Mary. We're gonna just. I don't know this because they've always referred to his magic as raw magic, but I was like, this is a reach for me, but I embrace it. I think it's okay. Like it's a weird thing that we decided to shift the story this way, but okay.
The difference between you and I is you chose to embrace it because I had those same thoughts and I rolled my eyes so hard. I'm like, okay, interesting. That would be like me saying, I'm not going to be able to come up with a good example, but like someone is like, oh, I can jump rope, and me being like, oh, I have a string, maybe I can lasso. Like, okay, just because this person, the only reason the spider can shapeshift is because she stole magic from a shapeshifter. Why would that give him the idea to be like, oh, interesting, that shapeshifter with a shapeshifting magic can shapeshift? Maybe I, someone who doesn't have shape-shifting magic, can also shapeshift. I was like, what a dumb thought. Because someone else can shapeshift, he was like, maybe I can do that too. That to me was just so stupid. And I'm going to be honest, this is where I'm going to lose some people. This is also the beginning of the end of Dorian for me. And I know he's on such a high pedestal for so many people.
He is. Not me personally, but yeah.
No, but for so many people love Dorian, and I wanted so badly to love him. I loved him in the beginning of this series, and then he kind of took a back burner just in the storyline, which was fine. I wasn't upset about that. But this, to me, this was like, okay, he's back in like the limelight, and he kind of has been the last, at least in Empire of Storms. But even in the limelight, he's still kind of like a background character. Like, to me, nothing about his storyline has been remarkable yet, and especially with after all the like depressing stuff we got from him when he was being like held captive by the Vogue, I was really excited for his storyline to pick up again, and it wasn't just great. For me personally, it never completely picked up. Like, yes, he's back in the story and he's more in the storyline, but it never did. And I'm going to say something else that's really going to offend maybe some people.
Wait, can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
I have a hot take and I wonder if it's the same hot take.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not a Manon Dorian fan.
Me neither. Yep, that's what I was going to say. But
it felt forced to me.
Well, and I'm going to clarify.
There's two characters.
I'm going to clarify this by saying I so desperately wanted to be.
Me too.
But
I was in the beginning when it first started.
Yes.
Yeah. There was not enough growth. And I honestly, call me crazy because I know these books are like 3 feet wide and there's 8 of them. But I think there was not enough storyline. I think maybe we needed even another book that was just Manon and Dorian's like relationship growing, because there wasn't enough written for me to believe the desire between them.
Agreed. 100%. Totally agree. Like the basis of it felt there was a potential for it to be more, and it just wasn't. And
The start was good though. The like, hello witchling, hello princeling.
Yes.
I liked that.
Gosh.
I thought it had a lot of potential, and it was
Agreed.
like, oh, this is spicy. I could get into this, and then it did not take off.
Flat.
It plateaued. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So agreed on that. But I just know so many people are obsessed with them. And as we go, I will state my reasonings for thinking that as we go along. I'm not going to I don't want to reveal too much yet, just in case no one has read the full book. But that's just my personal opinions. There's more people, I think, than that disagree with me, that love their storyline, and for them it's plenty, and that's awesome. I wish I was a part of that group because I wanted it to be. So that's just my personal take on it. But as we continue to go through, I just want everyone to know on the internet, like, I didn't love Dorian, and I also wish I loved Manon and Dorian, but it just wasn't enough for me, and I'm saying that now so that I can reference it as we continue to go. Cairn brings Aelin to Maeve, revealing their location, which is Dornell. And also, for a second, too, I just want to talk about this. I remember reading this, and there's being, like, so much back and forth, like, where could she possibly be? And even for the longest time, we didn't know. And then all this snap, where is she? It's so secretive. And then for them to be in Dornell, I was like,
I know. It's
really?
like when people are like on the shows when they're like, someone goes missing, did you check their house? And like, of course we checked their house. And then it's like they're just at their house. Well, how anticlimactic.
I was, I mean, to be fair, I know she wasn't there the whole time, but for that to be like the ending place, I was like, bummer.
Boo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maeve forces Aelin to kneel. Okay, hold on. I just need to center myself before we get into this chapter because, my goodness. This one was sad. Maeve forces Aelin to kneel on broken glass and places Queen Mab's crown on her head, which, if we all remember, Mab is
the broken glass alone. I think I started pouring tears at just that part. Yeah. So this is a hard
Mab
one for me
was her descendant too, like of the original tune, because Maeve is a faker. Fenris's twin Connall calls Fenris a disgrace before Maeve orders Connall to fatally stab himself in the heart. And the level of sadistic torture, I couldn't, because she only did that as punishment for Fenris. The terrible thing is Connall was the one who actually like served her and wanted to serve her. So, but that just shows how little she actually cared about him. Even though she was his everything. And that is what broke me the most. Like, making Fenris watch it was equally as devastating. But, like, I think if we, like, really dig deeper into how much that actually, honestly, pained Connall to do, he couldn't not do it because of the blood oath. But for him to know, to be, like, grossly aware right before he died that his queen, the person he has literally tied his life to and sworn every aspect of who he is, cared about him so little that as a middle finger to his brother just told him to kill himself, and he had no choice but to do it. Like, that is just
that's
tough.
Actually an aspect
it's a tough pill to swallow.
I acknowledged but didn't deep dive. I was just like, that's a part of it.
I think we think about it from Fenris's point of view the most, because that's
that's kind what she teased you up to do. Because Fenris, throughout your time knowing him, constantly talks about how much he like loves Connall and hates that he's doing this, and like he only became Maeve's like took the blood oath for Maeve because Connall did it and he wanted to protect him, and he cared so deeply for him. And then but Connall, you're exactly right, just wanted to be there because he had such a devotion for Maeve. So that's it's sad all around and very twisty because Connell's so confused. So it's very twisty.
It is sad and twisty, but I think that's just like was the cherry on top of the everything else that we didn't want it to be.
Yeah.
Aelin once again refuses to swear the blood oath to Maeve and throws a shard of glass at her. Maeve bleeds black then, just like a Volg, and that is when Aelin, it clicks for her. Fenris is allowed to take Fae form to clean Aelin's wounds, and they mourn together. This part, oh my gosh, that was, I can't say anything more than that because this was also so hard to read. It was so sad.
I know.
I'm laughing because if I don't laugh, I'm going to cry. Like,
I know.
Lysandra fights alongside the Bane against Erewhon's forces and Eldris. They win the battle and move inland toward Orinth, where Lord Darrow awaits. Nezrin and Sartak inform Chaol that they witness a 10,000-strong army marching towards Aniel. They plan to march on Aniel with the soldiers, cavalry, and the Rooks to save the city and then take control of the Farian Gap before reuniting with their fleets in Terrasen. Chaol and Irene ride ahead on a Rook to warn Aniel.
Quick thing. You know how everyone parallels this story to Lord of the Rings?
I don't think I've actually ever heard anyone parallel it.
Really?
Yeah.
You need to deep dive our comments a little more, because especially the episode that we talked about the similarities of like inspiration that Sarah has taken for her books. I do
remember that. Yeah. But I didn't remember like,
Lord of the Rings is crazy.
Specifically. Yeah.
Not this scene specifically, but I think what's interesting, and I know this number's pretty generic, but it's just because I watched Lord of the Rings literally last night, but the 10,000 strong army, I was watching with a friend and he was like, 10,000 people is not much. And because we were watching Lord of the Rings. And so I think it's interesting that that's the exact same amount of army that's here.
I mean, it's not nothing.
It's not nothing, but I
don't
think
know
it's
if
also
he's
just
ever
not like a crazy large amount of people. But we were talking specifically the battles that like Napoleon was in charge of.
Also have to
and so we're like, that's a ton of people. Mm-hmm.
Well, but I think we also have to take into I thought you were gonna say. I guarantee you though, like those battles, there was also less people on the earth. So I'm just saying, like for context, today 10,000 is different than 10,000 in 1628. Like,
I think we're on different pages here, but yeah,
we are. But I just also needed to clarify.
It's okay. No, I got you. I see where you're coming from. Maybe the listeners see where I'm coming from. Interesting that the number's the same. That's all I'm trying to say. All right,
tomato, potato. Yeah. So. But also, I thought you were saying people compare this scene specifically to Lord of the Rings, and that's when I said, "Oh, I've never heard that." Yes.
I think that I have heard that the battle specifically in Aniel is similar to one of the battles in Lord of the Rings, but I could not speak more to that. No, I'm actually not. I cannot speak more to it because I'm not as familiar with Lord of the Rings to the extent where I could parallel them.
Aelin loses hope, now knowing that Maeve is Valg royalty, just like Erewhon. Aelin, once again, is losing more. I didn't think she had more hope to lose, but here we are.
I know.
Aelin has visions of her mother urging her to be brave and not yield. Oh my gosh, this part got me too. Again, this is like Heir of Fire, like not flashbacks, but it's that same feeling that in Heir of Fire when she was burning
by the water.
Up. Yeah, and then she has that memory of her mom and or I don't even think it was. I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about it,
I believe she was by the water and she heard like her mom speaking to her and just had like a flashback, because that was when she was really coming to terms with who she was and embracing that she was going to be like the savior. So,
oh yeah, you're right. And then it was at the end when she was burning up, that's when she just had memories. You're right. I got it right.
And I think we messed up in that episode and did say that this was this part, and then came back later with a retraction on that. So
that happens.
Here it is. Yeah.
In a rage, Aelin hammers the inside of her iron sarcophagus, nearly busting it open, which is just so impressive considering she's eating iron and surrounded in iron.
I know.
And I know that wasn't necessarily her power. It was more just like brute strength, but impressive nonetheless. Her outburst sends a surge of energy down her magical mating bond with Rowan, who follows its signature and realizes that Aelin is in Dorian. Rowan and his... Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
First of all, okay, I think we need to go into this a little bit more just for the sake of it needs to be said. The fact that she's not like, her superpower is not super strength. She is no Bubpar. But the fact that she was like punching at the iron... coffin, sarcophagus, and it actually started to make a dent because of how much determination and willpower and just I will not yield, you do not yield, just like chanting that back over to herself, and that it was actually it wasn't just like, oh, you hurt your hands, but she sent a like wave of energy that Rowan was able to trace. Chills, full body chills. Finally, now we have
body
hope.
Chills. I know. Well, a little bit, but yes. Rowan and his companions plan to lure Maeve away from Dorian long enough for them to rescue Aelin. The Stygian spider leaves Manon, Dorian, and the 13 to the Kraken witches. Manon meets their clan leader, who also is her great-grandmother, Glennis.
Glennis?
I hate Glennis. I hate the name, not the character. Glennis. No offense to anyone named Glennis, or if they have a family member named Glennis, but I hate. It's not the name itself. It's the name in this story, because we have like Manon, Chaol, Aelin, like all these like fantasy-esque names, and then we have Glennis. And I was like, we couldn't have named her like, I don't know, Aromatica or something, like something made up and fantastical.
Well, please. It's the same as Dune. Remember we were talking about like you have Paul Atreides, the Bene Gesserits, and then you have, what was his name? Duncan Idaho. Are you kidding me?
Idaho. I know. It is. This is the Duncan Idaho of Kingdom of Ash.
And you picture like this dweeby guy. No, it's Jason Momoa, no beard.
I don't picture a dweeby guy.
Behold.
I picture like a cowboy, like Duncan Idaho. That's like, you have to say that it too, like that,
but like skinny with the pants and the belt buckle that's like really big, and just like the wide-legged bow leg type.
Why is he skinny? I don't picture cowboys skinny ever. Not like heavy.
Duncan
but
Idaho is. I think it's the name Duncan. I think I might have known a Duncan that was like really thin. So to me, Duncan Idaho is this. Let's go back to Jason Momoa, no beard. Jump scare.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
It's like, not right.
It's not.
It's not right.
It's as if he cut off an arm.
The world tilted a little bit when I saw that, and then when the movie was over, it just kind of like came back.
It's so true. Oh man. Yeah, so Glennis, not a fan for me personally. Just the name. The two patrolling Iron Teeth covens from the Yellowlegs clan attack the Kraken camp. Manon and the 13 defend them. And when Manon assures Glennis that she hadn't led the Yellowlegs to them, Damaris turns cold, detecting a lie. But
that threw me off, because I was like, no, the Damaris is broken.
Yeah, so that too. You're right. We don't need to go into that anymore. That's exactly the same. Glennis introduces a Kraken witch named Bronwyn. See, Bronwyn. Like, we have Bronwyn, but her grandma is Glennis? It drives me nuts.
Side note, I really like the name Bronwyn. I've read it in another
it's so cool.
fantasy book, and I loved it. I thought I could read that name all day long.
It was one of our indie books, too, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Plug for that. Which one was that? I can't remember the name of it. It's the Unseelie King's Rebel.
Yeah, good memory.
Look at me.
Nice.
All right, Bronwyn is Manon's cousin. Bronwyn claims the Krakens will never accept or recognize Manon as their queen, despite her royal blood. Dorian attempts to learn shapeshifting because he just thinks he can. I'm sorry. I'm going to take a page out of our Chaol hatred and not do that.
Well, I mean, we've never really laid into Dorian, so I feel like it's free game.
No. I feel like we should take the concept and apply it to most things.
Not me. I've hit a limit with Chaol, and I will back off. Everybody else has so much to go. I have so much roasting power.
I am actually going to take 8,000 steps back and stand with you. I agree. Free game. Dorian thinks he can do whatever he wants, and he's studying the Stygian spider. Surprise, surprise. Oh, wait, just kidding. He learns the species is Vogue in an origin story and kills the spider. Glennis tells Manon that the only a Kraken queen can light the flame of war and summon the Krakens to fight. But Manon must first be accepted as queen in order to do so. The Krakens plan to aid their southern clans fighting in Eelway. Lysandra takes Aelin's form and meets with Terrasen's steward Darrow, Aedion, and the other Terrasen lords and all of their allies. Darrow is hesitant of Aelin's right to rule and of her fire magic, when hasn't he been? Which has yet to be displayed. They discuss where to move their forces, but Darrow only allows the 6 official lords of Terrasen to vote, and they settle on retreating north to Orinth rather than defending the southern border.
I'm gonna pause here real quick. Yeah. Sarah does a great job at creating like mini sub villains. Like Darrow
Agreed.
is not the main problem. Are you kidding me?
No.
Darrow's whatever, a gust of the wind in the light of this all-out war going on. But
he
I
pisses you off.
hated him. Yeah,
Yes.
I was like, you are so freaking annoying.
Yes.
Shut your mouth. No,
Just like,
and
get
I
off your
loved,
high horse.
I loved hating him because it's
Yes.
just so minimal, but it's just
It
like
is.
an extra expensive. Like I just have to put a little energy towards hating him, but he's on the list because he sucks. All right, that's it.
Exactly. The meeting is interrupted by a Vogue sent by Erewhon, who attacks, quote unquote, Aelin. The attacking Vogue scents Lysandra's blood and recognizes her as a shifter. Before he's killed, the Vogue had sent a message down its bond to notify its kin that Aelin's troops march for Orinth, but Aelin Galathinius is not present. Aedion decides to ignore the lords and move their troops to the southern border. Good going, Aedion. Darrow's
So political. There's so many politics in this, and it just is so crazy to me how many aspects you really have to look at.
It is. Darrow's spy and messenger, none other than Nox Owen, who knows Aelin from before. She saved his life as Selena, if we recall, back in, I want to say it was it Throne of Glass or was it Crown? It was Throne of Glass.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if it was Throne of Glass or Crown of Midnight, but it was just Throne of Glass.
Mm-hmm.
He can thus tell that Lysandra is a shapeshifter pretending to be Aelin. And I'm going to go on my soapbox again. This was such a stretch to me, honestly. Homie hadn't seen Aelin since Throne of Glass. Like, and even then, they had only known each other for, like, what, the couple months of the challenge. Like, it wasn't like he was an old friend that we just haven't heard from since the first book. But supposedly, he was able to tell she wasn't really herself, yet no one else who had known her more recently could. Like, honestly, like, sure, he knew her a little bit longer than Darrow, but Darrow had known her more recently. And so you're telling me that this is a girl he hasn't seen in years at this point. And even when he did, he knew her under a different identity. She looks very different now. She's grown so much. Yet, okay, sure, he can tell it's not actually her. Yeah, right.
Yeah, okay, so I think two things. One, I wanted this so badly. Like, I wanted Nox's... Like, I didn't know I wanted it until he returned, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I loved Nox. I'm so happy he's back. So I wanted it so bad that I didn't care what he said. I was like, I'll buy it. Yeah. Two, though, while you were saying this, I was thinking to myself, who would have been so impactful that it was like, oh, if you really knew, that's not Aelin. One, I think a good option would have been Lysandra if she never played this as big of a role as she did. If she came in after the matter, and you were like, oh, she can actually, one, help with this war, but two was like, that's not Aelin. Now, obviously, Lysandra's playing Aelin, so it could never work. But another person, and this would complicate the matters so much more than just realizing this isn't Aelin, is Sam. But is that who you're thinking? I know. So I'm saying it would complicate matters so much more as if he like actually wasn't dead somehow, some way. They tricked her into believing he was, and he came back, but that would make things so tricky with Rowan and all that. But if he knew, like, this isn't Aelin, I know Aelin.
See, yes, but I would also hate that because his death was so impactful that I would hate to like come to find out that he didn't actually die.
It would muddy the waters. It would muddy the waters way too much. Who are you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say, I'm realizing after I say it that I don't remember if now I just can't remember if she knew or not, but I was gonna say Evangeline would have been a way better person. Like, she knew Aelin significantly better than Nox did. And especially like with Lysandra being her like adopted mother, she would be able to be like, but I can't remember now if she knew or not. Like, looking back.
Well, it doesn't matter if... Oh, yeah, I guess it does matter. I mean...
It does matter. If she knows, then obviously she's going to be able to tell, but I couldn't remember.
Oh, no, I don't think she know. Oh, she... Yeah, I think she would have to, because Lysandra.
That's what I'm saying, but I can't remember because if they wouldn't, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Also, though, and I'm glad you started talking about this before we got off on a tangent on what other character would be better. You were excited that she brought him back. Like, I normally love when Sarah brings people back that we most likely forgot about, like such as Irene and Ansel and the Silent Assassins, and honestly even Rolf and like just everyone from Assassin's Blade, really. But this specific character didn't land for me personally. I just was kind of like, oh, yeah, I forgot about him. Like,
I mean, if he played a bigger role, then I think I wouldn't have liked it. But because he was so one-off, it was like, let him have his moment. Let him have his, what do they call that? 5 minutes of fame?
Yep, 5 seconds of fame. or 5, whatever, 15
I think
seconds
it's
of
longer
fame.
than 15 seconds.
Minutes.
15 minutes.
You know what we're trying to say.
How many minutes does one get of fame?
I'm going to help you out by moving on. Lysandra enlists his help in drugging the Terrasen lords so that Aelin may move their armies south without resistance. Chaol and Irene arrive in Aniel, inform Chaol's father of Erewhon's approaching troops, and develop plans for defense. The Rook and their healers arrive in Aniel, but their foot soldiers are still a week off, while Morath's army is only 3 days away. Maeve,
the timing.
I know. Maeve in this is our last chapter, you guys, and this was a doozy for me reading.
Mm-hmm.
Maeve implants false memories in Aelin's mind, telling her own story. An ancient and powerful queen married the eldest of 3 kings. Using texts from his own libraries, she learned to open doors between worlds and fled to another world with her spider handmaidens. She disguised herself as a fake queen so the kings would not recognize her. The kings created 3 keys capable of permanently opening gates, and controlling all worlds. When they entered her world, she banished 2 of the 3, including her husband, but the youngest had remained. The queen wishes to find the keys, banish her last brother, and live in peace. Maeve then attempts to trick Aelin into revealing the word key's locations, but Aelin does not fall for it. Maeve leaves Dornell to obtain a wordstone collar, which will enslave Aelin to her will once she's wearing it. Cairn is tasked with moving Aelin and Fenris to a more secure location. And that is where we are ending for today.
I have something to say before we tangent off on our own things.
That's where we're done with this story.
Yeah. When Maeve started playing with Aelin's mind and showing her memories or like history that was a little bit doctored, or like Maeve put her own lie to it, that like she wants to send Erewhon back, but she just wants to live in peace. She doesn't want all the power, whatever. I started getting Peeta Mellark vibes of, is this going to mess Aelin up to where she forgets who she is, what she's doing, what her role is? And then we're going to have to watch Rowan like bring her back when he saves her and convince. So no, while you're saying, ooh, I did not want to read that. So I was very like, I don't want this. So interested to see what we'll find out next week.
I was saying ooh because I did not once consider that to be where the story was heading. Yeah. But I also am glad, like, I like the way she wrote it better. But that would have been interesting, I think, if we had gone that. I don't know. I wouldn't have hated it as much as you say you would have. But I'm saying ooh because I never even considered that being a potential direction that she would have gone in. But that's all we have this week. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay tuned for Monday. We have our next hot goss, and this one is a doozy. Yes. So be sure to tune in, and then next week we will be going over chapters 21 through 40 in Kingdom of Ash. So thank you guys so much, and see you later.
Yep, bye.